Wow. Thank you, Kathy. Um, again, I want to welcome you. And today's talk is forward in the flow. And whenever I choose a topic, I am in that topic all week. And I really needed it this week with everything that was on my plate to handle. And I'm grateful again for that grounding in spiritual tools. And I realized that what blesses one indeed does bless all. Interesting to notice that, as one of Teresa's sayings was, uh, it's not the end of the story. And interesting to notice. So last night before I went to sleep, I thought, I'll see what tomorrow's Science of Mind, and I brought some past magazines in the front if you'd like to take one afterwards. I wonder what it says, especially since today would have been my dear sister Jan, Lucille Corcoran's 81st birthday. She was older, much older than I. This is from Robert Downey Jr. They always have quotations at the top of the daily lesson from someone whose name we might know or might not know, and then it's followed by one by Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind. But this was, and I put a little happy face on my notes. I think that the power is in the principle of moving forward, as though you have the confidence to move forward, eventually gives you confidence when you look back and see what you've done. And the title of today's lesson is The Meaning We Make. And I've said to friends, and some of them laugh, but I'm serious. I want to be remembered for, and looking back, we'll see the wisdom of the path. And yesterday, when Dr. Jack Miller was here to introduce his workshop and his work, the Phoenix Project, working with people on getting through and letting go of their deep grieving and loss, he really had us understand the power of flow and letting go and moving forward. And he always ends his meditations with, that which is right is unfolding in my life. So that plays in my mind like a record going over and over. Same as some of the things that my parents told me. My mom always said, Nancy, you have all the time you need. And I have to think of that all the time. And things my father said. And I remember one thing that my sister would say when I got into trouble because I was a little Dickens, they told me. And my mom one time was taking a picture of us, and she was behind the big camera. That's how long ago it was. And we have a little tea party, and I'm reaching over to get my sister's cookie because I think my mom can't see me. She goes, Nancy, don't take Jan's cookie. That's not nice. Jan puts her arm around me, and she goes, it's okay. I love her. She's my sister. So that is the legacy I have from dear Jan, who passed quite suddenly when she was 10. And the grief no longer lives in my cells thanks to many transformational trainings and spiritual grounding and time. But I just thought it was interesting to notice. And then I woke up to Michael Stillwater's song coming on my alarm. And I met him years ago to mastery training in Hawaii, in Maui, when he played the guitar and he and I played Scrabble. He's just a cool guy. And I bought his CDs. What was the song? Simply surrender, simply let go. You know all that you need to know. Let the flow carry you. Trust in the power that brought you to where you are. Simply surrender and let go. You'll be shown all you need to know. Let yourself go. So the flow continues, and it's such perfect timing. And yes, Mom, I always have all the time that I need. Thank you. And my father was also very loving, and he was always there for me. If I got upset with something my mom did, I knew I could go to my father. He was so safe and so wonderful. He'd been an artist. They both were in the FBI. Then he had his CPA business. So I think that's pretty full of a life, right? Um, okay, just a quick prayer. Please close your eyes and turn within and center on your breathing to quiet the busy mind. Closing the door to all outer distractions, I sit quietly and listen. I am fully present. Centered and aware of my divine nature, I choose now to envision what is good and true, even amidst trying circumstances. I overcome negative thoughts and persevere with patience and hope. Empowered by faith, I am greater than the conditions I encounter, and I trust what I know from my experience. Challenges do not deter me, and uncertainty does not sway me. I act with confidence, for faith is my spiritual strength. And though the path may seem unclear, each step I know that my inner knowing is growing stronger and guiding me. I welcome and celebrate the blessings to come. Amen, and so be it. Kathy mentioned the news, and I use the word ironic that when we are facing the fires and many things in the news, yes, I also watch the news. There was so much about the legacy of Jimmy Carter and what timing the universe has given us. Because I remember saying from the S training, if not you, who, if not now, when? And that we all want to make a difference. Look at the difference he made for 101 years. Well, I don't know what he did as a baby, but so I'm open now to being in the flow of guidance to what organizations I can contribute to that will make a big difference for those people. I too grew up in Southern California, went to Occidental College in Eagle Rock that Jennifer mentioned. I went to school in Pasadena next to Altadena, and my dear high school friend with whom I travel nowadays, she called me a few days ago, and the fire was 2 blocks from her house, and I have not heard from her since. But looking around my house and all the stuff that I have and all the memories, I believe it would be very difficult to live through the loss of all of that. However, we know and we have friends who've lived through more than that. So we know that we have the strength. So the inspiration for my talk about the flow happened years and years ago when my kids, who are now 46 and 47, were probably 4 and 5, and I take them to the Lawrence Hall of Science, and I noticed this book called Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience by, I have to practice this name, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, Hungarian philosopher. For many years, I looked for this book, and the flow was in the back of my mind. Finally, one of my friends, longtime friends who came to one of my music benefits a couple years ago, brought her boyfriend of many years, and we were talking about flow, and I went, yeah, there was this book. He shows up a few days later with that book. The basic theory is that a state of flow is a highly focused mental state whereby one becomes completely present to what is happening and open to things unfolding, often toward a goal. There's a profound sense of unity and interconnectedness. And many people have been inspired to do their own research into the flow. You'll see on my handout the year that was written. I believe it says 1990. And the book that I've been reading lately called Living in the Flow was written in 2019 after many years of his experience. And he's also very spiritual, that author. But I notice when I listen to my inner guidance, I can proceed along the river of life experiences. And this past week, well, I was in Kabul for a week, come home, and my baggage didn't arrive. And I had the choice of waiting for 3 hours for the next flight from San Diego and getting $150 or going home and having it delivered. So I went, there's no way I'm going to have it delivered on a Sunday when I'm here. A big suitcase on my front door. So I chose, well, I'll stay here. And I had such an amazing time meeting people and everything. And musician who was playing happened to be a young man. I went up to give him a tip. We recognized each other after a few minutes of conversation. Christopher Nguyen had played my piano at one of my events a couple years ago. How is that for a synchronicity? Um, so in New Thought, we often say, change your thinking, change your life. And today my intention is to open some avenues of thinking that you will find useful. We ascribe to practical spirituality based on not only Jesus' teachings, but also including wisdom from many faith traditions, philosophies, and practices, including studies in the fields of science, medicine, and psychology. And again, look at the bottom of your handout, and it'll have some of my favorite readings and books down there. The principles in New Thought are found in many writings, including the Rick sisters' writings. And I decided to bring this thick book in case you have nothing else to do this year. It's The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Let's see, when did he write this? 1926 and revised in 1938. So I don't think any of us were in this realm yet. But just a couple things. We know that the power with which we are dealing with is principle and not personality. If we know and believe that mind is the only actor, and that's divine mind, cause, effect, and substance, intelligence, truth, and power that there is, if we have a real embodiment, then we can demonstrate. If we lack, if we are poor, if we are without friends or opportunities, we can be sure that we're able to erase from our consciousness any sense of lack. And this thought meets the prior thought and neutralizes its effect. It rubs it out just as we rub a chalk mark off a board. I like the visual. So we can go home, and when thoughts come up that might deter us from something, we can just take out our mental chalkboard. And in Matthew 6, he said, the secret of prayer and its power is in the outward life depends upon an unconditioned faith in and reliance upon this inner presence. We must enter the closet, so to speak, and shut out all else, monkey minds, we used to call it, monkey minds, and enter the presence of spirit in quietness and confidence and believing. When we enter this secret place, we are to leave all else behind, all hate, animosity, and vindictiveness, for only in so doing can we enter into the presence. And I don't know about you, but I have judgments. Do any of you have judgments about anything going on, about any particular person? I'm a channeler right now. So my inner brat comes out, and I'm not so holy that I'm walking on the flow of water. And I get to choose again, like the Course in Miracles says. Choose again, choose happiness. And I go, what's the power? And someone else said, don't let that get you down. And we cannot give our power away to something that is not serving the greater good, correct? So I want to have our conversations be of possibility, conversations of making a difference. Let's see what happens when we're at our potluck afterwards. Let's see. So one of my New Year's goals is to read a book a month. Like in the past, I actually used to. I'm only halfway through, and I forgive myself. Interestingly enough, this book, which I can't remember how I got a hold of it, but I like the idea of flow, The Science of Synchronicity and How Your Choices Shape Your World. And I thought, this is interesting. The people who praised it, Edward Viljoen, and I went, that name sounds familiar. He's one of the writers for the Science of Mind magazines. Right, Jeffrey? Yes, the senior minister at the Santa Rosa Church of Religious Science since 1995. He's a graduate of Sonoma State Law and an enforcement chaplain. In any case, the other one was Matthew Fox. I went with Matthew Fox, not only he, but my daughter and I went with Matthew Fox in a small group to Peru a few years ago, climbed up to Machu Picchu. He's a great guy. He was excommunicated from the Catholic Church for talking about Mother, Father, God, and original blessing. The only thing I can say about Matthew is he still needs to learn how to dance. All those years as a priest didn't quite do it for him. But I used to go to his techno-cosmic masses in Oakland. And one of our ministers in the past, David Borglum, did his University of Creation Spirituality. So there's so many spokes in our wheel of spiritual activity. In the preface, it talks about the flow, and sometimes we think, isn't it weird? I happen to think about this person, they called me on the phone. It's not weird. That actually has been proven by people in philosophical and scientific and quantum physics that there is a connection we can make in consciousness. And also, you know the thing about heart math? Have you heard of heart math, any of you? I actually met those people at a science and consciousness conference, but it didn't speak to me at that time. So I went on to other people like the physicists and all that. But we know from whence we think. So where do our thoughts come from? Our brain, our heart, our gut, all of it, right? And not just within us, but we don't even know. That's part of being in the flow. So the author writes, I think the appropriate worldview for our age is one in which meaningful coincidence or synchronicity is part of science. When synchronicity becomes part of our normal comings and goings, really, I could write volumes on when I'm open to this, how many times it happens. So anyway, he has a lot of different things in here about our choices, about creating love in the world, and he even quotes Einstein. For me, the message of the science of synchronicity and flow is about developing the motivation and willingness to try to create that world, and that world is one of love. What a great message. And he calls it the Lorax process. Listen within, open to receive, reflect, release, act, and then repeat. So you might turn a corner and meet somebody and end up in a conversation that gets you a job, or you have someone in common that you know. It happens everywhere. So that's that book. So I invite you to remember some things that you've thought of or heard of today. And this next week, especially, notice all the times of flow and kind of laugh and be grateful. Like, wow, I'm a conduit of this quantum physics principle. That sounds better, right? Let's see, what else do I want to include here? Let me have a show of hands. How many of you can identify with what I've said about being in the flow and experiencing synchronicity? Okay, so we could have conversations of that. I want to hear your stories. Let's see here. Oh, I remember after another serious loss, I was walking the beach in Laguna with moping, and these couple guys were there, and they were saying hi, and one was so friendly that I couldn't keep moping. And I found out he played the guitar, and I said, oh, so he says, hey, I'll come up and see you in Eagle Rock, where I lived. Anyway, he became the healing center of that process in my life. Such was his kindness. He had been a Marine in Vietnam. He understood what I was going through. And I was thinking while I prepared for my talk, Nelson Ray could have been one of the major catalysts, besides my mom, who started chatting up people in her older age at the airport. Kind of embarrassing for me. Now I am like that. Anyway, we're walking. We rendezvoused back east because he moved back to Baltimore area. We rendezvoused at Central Park in New York City. It's nighttime, and there's this old guy, drunk, or I don't know, maybe he wasn't old, a guy who's probably drunk and homeless. And I'm kind of going like this. He walks right up to him, says, hey, buddy, shakes hands. How you doing? I mean, what a difference that made in my life. So I'm not afraid. I've hugged homeless people. Besides giving them money, I don't care how they spend it. I want to emulate. I see you, you're a human being. I don't know where that's going to go in the flow. But so I just invite you to be bold. In fact, I love his name. Sky Nelson Isaacs talks about being bold in his book. Don't be afraid. You never know. I often have called Safeway in the parking lot my second home of truth. Oh my God, stories and hugs and tears, and even in the checkout line. So wherever we are, God is and all is well, we often say. My closing statement, pardon me. I'm reminded of this short yet powerful quotation. Yeah, I'm a junkie for transformational stories, as I often say. Also, I love good quotations, and you have the handout. I have unshakable faith in the perfect outcome of every situation in my life, for I'm allowing God or Spirit to be in absolute control and guide me in all proper actions. Oh, gosh. Who wrote that? Catherine Ponder, the author of Dynamic Laws of Prosperity in 1962. So we are the recipients of a lot of transformational trainings and writings from the 60s and 70s. Remember, we have choices, and we are together. We are connected as we move forward, definitely in the light and love of God. A quick closing prayer. Relaxing in the present moment, I close my eyes and take a deep cleansing breath. My heart and mind open to the pure, unlimited potential of spirit. New visions and new ways of thinking flow with ease as I embrace this truth. I trust my inner guidance. I know what I need to do. Divine guidance is an active force in my discernment, and I know I am never without direction, no matter what. I'm confident and clear about what is mine to do. I act on guidance, and I receive what I need to receive and the help I need, thanks to divine wisdom and intelligence that empowers me to see the way ahead. I walk in expectant faith, for I trust that with each step I choose to listen within, I recognize answers and senses of direction. Guidance is the wisdom and power of God, present in my inspired thoughts. I am blessed with clarity and freedom from fear. And I give thanks personally that my many hours of work this week ended up in a closed escrow. I'm freer, and my tenants and I are on really good relationship terms. I'm grateful. We've each been gifts for each other, and that is what relationships are for. So may each one of you know that you are a gift to the people around you, to the people here, and to your family, and to everybody you meet and greet with boldness. So be it. Thank you.